my name is Natasha Bailey, and I got my yoga certification in July of 2019. And Curtis here, my friend, was one of my very first students. And so I just want to have him share with everyone his journey with yoga and with everything that he's been going through. So, how long have you had symptoms that they don't know what it is?
Yeah, so probably maybe 10 to 12 years total. In the last probably 3 or 4, it's gotten a lot worse. But I started having some symptoms probably about 10 to 12 years ago.
Okay, and can you just tell me just like what are some of your symptoms?
So it started out with just a little bit of kind of imbalance, a little bit of coordination issues sometimes. And then kind of at its worst point, my gait was really bad. When I walked, I kind of walked with my legs kind of spread apart to keep my balance. I walked really slow at one point. I was walking at times like I felt like I was like 80 years old, just kind of scooting along, trying not to fall over. And when I'd step up on curbs, I had to stop, pause, and then kind of take a slow step up. That's kind of, I guess that's probably a pretty good example of kind of what was going on.
Okay, and so why did you approach me?
So originally, I think the reason why I talked to you is because I knew that you had had challenges with MS, and I knew that you had done some physical training and greatly improved your health. And I think that's when I started talking to you about how I could, how I might make some progress with my health. And you told me originally that I needed to change my diet to start with, and then once I changed my diet, then I would probably start showing some progress in like physical therapy, because I was doing some exercising, but I really wasn't getting any, I wasn't seeing any improvement. I didn't seem to be, my endurance didn't seem to be improving. I couldn't, I was out of breath a lot. That was one of my challenges. Was I'd walk up the stairs in my house and I'd be out of breath, at the top of my stairs, just one flight of stairs. And so I was out of breath a lot. And so so after that, I kind of changed my diet, kind of changed my eating habits. And then I started doing some physical therapy. Like I tried to do some jogging in place, just kind of trying to do my own thing. I have like a UFC workout thing on the Wii, so I started kind of doing that. And then Deborah showed me this guy on a video that was his progression doing yoga, and like he went from crutches to being able to walk and do things kind of normally. And so I kind of started on my own doing some things, but it was probably about 15 minutes a day when I did it. and it wasn't super regular. And again, I wasn't seeing any progress. And then my wife, Deborah, she told me that you had started yoga classes. And so at first I was kind of hesitant, thinking, well, that doesn't sound very manly, you know?
It makes you more of a man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, what am I going to tell my friends? I'm doing yoga. That's my workout. Not like I'm pumping iron or anything. So, anyway, she talked me into it, and I started coming. I think that was in like August of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so now had your doctors ever told you to try yoga, like all the doctors that your specialists that you've seen?
So I had a couple that told me to do physical therapy.
No.
That's one of the things that I could try. Oh, I guess I didn't talk about my tremors. So one of the things one of the issues that I've had also is tremors. And about 3-4 years ago, the tremors started like full body. So I had issues with tremors in my arms and hands for quite a while, but the full body tremors was new to me. And so I started noticing more weakness in my muscles and difficulty like standing in place for a long time. Also dealing with neuropathy in my feet. A lot of like really strong pins and needles feelings in my feet. And so that's another thing that was going on. I had a whole lot of stuff going on at the same time. So I took a little while to put it all together. So anyways, that's how my journey to come to yoga in August.
Okay. And well, I digress. Let me think of the next thing. So what changes have you noticed from when you first started with me in August?
Yeah, so I went once a week, and we were doing 50-minute to hour sessions. And still, I felt really good when we finished. And I noticed little things about a little bit about my strength, but it wasn't until about December that I really noticed that all of a sudden, like I was really stiff. My muscles were really stiff when I was doing the poses, and difficulty with a lot of the balance, out of breath a lot. And so once it was about December that I started to notice, as we were doing some of the poses, all of a sudden I noticed that my legs, the muscles in my legs seemed to just kind of be loosening up just a little bit. And at first I thought, I wasn't sure what to think of it, little at a time. It was mostly, I think, in my back hamstrings, and my calves that I noticed that. And then it seemed to kind of, after, I think it was that very next week, maybe a week and a half later, I was at school, and I kind of noticed that my feet felt a little different, because normally at work when I sat down a lot, I just noticed that my feet, just the pins and needles in my feet. When I stood up to walk around, I couldn't stand still because the pins and needles would start really bad there too. But I like felt like this kind of warmness in my feet and my ankles. And I remember kind of getting up and going, wow, this feels kind of weird. And I felt like kind of some sensation that I hadn't felt in a while. And then I got up and work with one of my students and noticed that my feet felt, when I stood, felt like they just felt different. It felt like I had more sensation. I went home and I talked to my wife, and first of all, I wasn't going to tell her anything that I had experienced, because I thought, well, that's just, I'm going to jinx it. Maybe it's just kind of a weird, day or something. And so, so then we tried, she asked me the next day, I think it was. So the next day it continued. And so I was like, wow, this isn't just a one-day thing. And so she asked me to walk back and forth in the room. And normally my walk back and forth was really slow. I couldn't really pivot really fast. Another thing, what would happen to me if I walked a lot, I'd get nauseous and kind of get headaches. And so I walked across the room like normal, like I did before I started having issues. And I walked back and I spun around like in a pivot. And I was like, wow, that's pretty incredible.
No, turn around, pivot around.
And then the next night, she's like, well, jump up in the air. And I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb. I'm not jumping up in the air. She goes, well, just try it, because I had difficulty kind of getting off the ground a whole lot. And when I landed, I felt kind of like, that I was landing with like clubbed feet or puffy feet. And I couldn't feel the sensation of the ground. And so I tried it. I jumped up and down. She's like, oh my gosh, that was pretty amazing. And I was like, whatever. It didn't really seem to me like it was that much different. And so she filmed me and I watched it and I was like, wow, like that is quite a bit improvement from before. And just little by little, I just noticed, my muscles just seemed to start kind of waking up. More on my legs, and then it was a little bit later when I noticed it more in my arms. But it was during Christmas time, and my brother-in-law came over, and we went on a hike on the waterfall trail, right? And so we hiked the waterfall trail, and I hiked it like without a cane, without feeling like I was going to fall over, and my feet didn't hurt the whole time I was hiking. And so we got back, and I was telling my wife that it felt really good. And so then at Christmas time, my brother was joking around and he said, hey, let's hike Camelback Mountain, when you're ready in a couple of months. And so that very next week, I was still off of school, and he was off of work, and I said, hey, I got a crazy idea. Let's just go hike Camelback Mountain.
And that's no joke. That's a hike.
And like the Lord of the Rings comment, one does not simply hike Camelback Mountain,
Exactly.
go into Mordor. But anyways, so I went, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really expect to get all the way up, and I didn't realize that I was thinking that it was Squaw Peak and not Camelback. So I actually thought it was a little easier hike than Camelback. And so I was kind of nervous when we got started. I was like, this is not what I was thinking it was. So, we hiked up, we got all the way up, um, and got to the top and found our way slowly down. It took us probably twice as much as the average hiker does in a day. But it just blew me away. And it was at that point that I had realized, like, really, what kind of progress I had finally started to make.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story. I was going to actually ask you to share it, so I'm so glad that you did. Okay, so tell me, how are you doing today?
Good. I actually did a workout right before we got on. Um, I've been doing the workouts that you posted, and so worked out, felt really good. And I continue to still have the same benefits. Actually, probably about 3 weeks ago, um, a lot of my neuropathy, the really strong pins and needles, um, went away when I was standing. It started to kind of fade a little bit when I was sitting down, but now I can stand like in place. I don't have to kind of bounce back and forth to keep my feet from tingling.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can uh, walk through stores a little bit better. That was a challenge for a while there. Like, walking through Walmart was kind of difficult. I had to my wife had to drop me off in the old man chairs up front, sometimes, or I would do a few aisles and say, forget it, I can't do this anymore. But I'm able to, one of the things in just the last couple of weeks that I've noticed is my endurance overall has really improved. Um, my wife has me doing some projects in the backyard, and before, like, for instance, when I would go to mow the lawn or take care of the backyard, I could mow the lawn, but I couldn't weed eat in the same day. Um, and uh, I've been able to do both of those in the same day. I put some pavers on the side of our yard and worked, like, I think more than 8 hours without really taking. I took a little break for maybe 30 minutes. And so, like, my lifestyle has totally changed from um, just struggling to just, move around, to being able to do things like I normally could, that kind of disappeared for about 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
So, what what would you say yoga has given you?
It's giving me, like, kind of my normal life back. I'm still experiencing some balance and some coordination issues, but I'm able to do some of the normal things that I used to do. I can go on hikes with my kids now. Uh, Hikes, not just, the waterfall trail, the one that's paved like halfway up now, that you can take somebody in a wheelchair on. But so, like, I can do things with my kids that I couldn't do for quite a while. I have more energy to to do a lot of things.
That's awesome. And so what would you say to someone that, like you in the beginning, was like, that's not manly enough to even try yoga, or someone that has health issues? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I was totally shocked. If I didn't experience it for myself, I would have never, you know, I would have never have realized how much of a difference it can make. And I remember talking to the Van Hooks. This was right like in November, and afterwards they were giving me a ride home, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm, making much progress. And then like all of a sudden that next week, like things started, my body just started, working better. And I now I talk to my friends, that have different issues. I talk to my students that are dealing with stress and anxiety and things like that. I talk to them about yoga, and I tell them how it's helped me. And I do deal with anxiety and depression, and it has also helped me with that as well. So I definitely shout out, definitely share my success with other people, and I try to drag them along to yoga. None of them have taken me up on it yet, but I'll hopefully get them there.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Curtis. I seriously appreciate this.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I just want to kind of get your impression of Curtis and how he's transformed.
Well, it's been nothing short of a miracle, for one. I guess I had kind of gotten used to him having kind of some limitations. Like I heard him just mentioning to you, about not being able to walk around the grocery store. I was starting to get nervous about him carrying things up and down the stairs, and was really preparing myself mentally for thinking, oh, we're going to need to move because we're going to need a one-story house. And we would kind of joke about, things like him walking like an old man, or, not being able to do the things that he used to be able to do. But inside, it was really sad, because I was thinking, he's young, he's in his 40s, he shouldn't be breaking down so soon like this. And he kept going to the doctor, different doctors, different specialists, and I kept encouraging him to go, and they couldn't seem to quite figure out what was going on with him, and so he would get discouraged and not want to go. And so when I started suggesting to him yoga, several years ago, my oldest daughter, she'd been doing yoga, and she kept saying, Dad, you got to do yoga with me. And he was like, I'm not doing that. And so I kept, just kind of like, as a wife does, you kind of plant the little seeds and hope that they're the ones that they think that they're the ones that thought about it. But really, you've been feeding it to them, all along. And so he finally does, after I showed him that video of that man just having such a transformation just based on yoga, I think that kind of, it definitely planted a little seed in his mind, and maybe kind of where he had kind of given up hope of ever improving, kind of planted something like, well, maybe, it's worth trying. And so once he started doing yoga, though, he's been doing it for a few years, but not very often, just kind of here and there, kind of hit and miss. And while it was good for him to be doing that, it wasn't necessarily pushing him and strengthening him. You know, it was just kind of in a holding pattern. He was kind of right where he was and not really progressing, but not getting worse necessarily. And so once he started doing yoga with you on that weekly basis, and you know, going more often and doing it for longer, he definitely, I mean, I wasn't really even paying attention to him getting better until that day he said, you know, oh, my feet feel weird. And so this was after a couple of months. And I thought, well, yeah, you do look like you're walking differently. And you do look like you're not having so much trouble. I don't feel like you're going to fall over watching you walk. And so it literally went from like, we were at the doctor talking about deep brain stimulation surgery on a Wednesday, and coming out of that appointment really discouraged and thinking that was our only option for him to ever, and that was a really big risky, you know, surgery to be looking at, to on Friday night, in 2 days, all of a sudden we were noticing that he was doing things that he couldn't do even the week before. The week before we'd gone grocery shopping and he had to sit in the front of the store while I did the shopping, and always had to push the cart. And if he was walking around with me, because he had to hold on to something. And so literally from that Wednesday to that Friday, it was like a miracle. And I know that it was happening all along, but we didn't notice it until this one thing was pointed out. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, let's try this. Can you do this? Oh, you can do that. Okay, well, try this. Can you do this? And after that, it was like a snowball effect. And I think that the mental boost that he got from that, and knowing like, oh my gosh, this is really happening, this is really working, it has worked together with the physical to motivate him to work harder, to continue to do yoga a couple times a week, and has really given him the hope that he needed, you know, to help him succeed at just overcoming some of his challenges. So yeah, it's been a miracle. It's been a miracle. And I'll tell anybody who'll listen about it. And I get so animated about it when I talk about it, but it is a miracle.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you for always sending me videos of him doing stuff. I love it.
I know, he was so embarrassed, but I'm like, I'm sending this to Natasha because this is a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It's huge compared to when he started with me, and how his balance was, and then to think of when COVID hit and we had to stop and everything, it was like night and day. He wasn't tipping over, he wasn't holding on to walls, he was doing it all. And so
yeah, and he just keeps doing all these projects around our house and in our backyard. And
you're like cracking the whip.
I know. I'm like, what? You can do all this stuff that you haven't done for years? He'll go outside and do yard work literally all day, laying pavers and cutting wood, and he's redoing our play set and doing stuff in the yard, and hours and hours and hours. And before he could do like one thing for maybe 30 minutes, and then he was like on the couch for the rest of the day, and even maybe the next day, like it would just wipe him out. And now he can put in a good solid 8 or 10 hours of hard, heavy labor and be fine. And so yeah, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. So yeah, and every day I'm almost to the point where I forgot how far he's come in the last 6 months, because that's every day now. There's no looking back. There's no I'm not worried about him falling down the stairs. I'm not worried about, oh my gosh, we have to move. I think we could stay here for longer. And so yeah, I don't even think about where he was at anymore. I mean, it's just been a miracle. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So, I will let you go.
Right. Okay.
Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah.
You're so welcome. Mwah. We love you. We're so grateful for you.
And hopefully soon we'll get back into the world again.
Yes. Looking forward to that. All right. Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.